back, listeners and viewers, to another week at Education, the Teacher's Talking Terror podcast, where myself, Mike,
and myself, Courtney,
are back to cover, we're cheating here. We're covering the last 11 movies of the month. October was technically like a 5-weeker, and we got behind. Honestly, life has happened to both of us, slapped us around a little bit, and found us scrambling. As it's November 5th, and we're like finally recording the week of 21 to 27 of October. We're like, let's just do the last 11 and be done with it. So here we are. We are covering our last 11 films. Just to kind of give a quick overview, if you for some reason missed any of the last 3 weeks of October, we challenged ourselves to watch a horror movie a day. We failed. Again, life. But we still kind of keep our format where we do a couple of shuffle movies a week. We do a couple of each of our choices, and then we do one off the list every Saturday. And so we start with October 21st's movie was a shuffle movie, The Reptile.
Yeah.
A 1966 Hammer film. I do like a Hammer film.
This is the year my dad was born.
Oh, yeah? My dad is 13 years older than your dad. But no, it's a Hammer movie, and you haven't seen enough Hammer films yet to really like embrace the vibe and the feel of a Hammer film. They just all have this kind of gothic feel to them, and that's no different in this film. It's been a while since I've seen it, so I'm a little scrambling to what it was about, but I know there's a plague going on.
Yeah, we've got this couple that like inherits this little like
cottage or something.
Yeah. And there's been like mysterious deaths happening that have been chalked up to like heart attacks and things like that. So the locals are really like just not nice to this couple that moves in.
Yeah.
Doctor, who is also this couple's neighbor, is like, I think you guys should go.
Yeah, you should leave.
But
they're like, no, we have to help with this mystery.
Yeah. And then they come to find out, like, there's this venomous, like, half woman, half snake.
Yeah, like they find out that a lot of these deaths that they've been attributing to like heart attacks or whatever are like they all have like snake bites. Like they like exhume the corpses, and they're like, oh, they all have this same bite. Like I don't know how they miss those bites every time. But yeah, I do, kind of like you're right. There's like this reptilian creature, human thing, and we know that's what it is. So now we got to figure out, well, who is this reptile? I mean, the name of the movie is The Reptile. Kind of a cool design too. Like I really like the makeup effects of this, like the big buggy eyes.
Yes,
it was pretty cool. But it turns out that is Anna.
Yeah, his daughter.
Yeah,
the doctor's daughter.
The doctor's daughter is the reptile, and there's a fight, and there's it's the house catches on fire. I mean, it's your pretty standard monster movie type thing where we have to confront the monster, we have to fight the monster, and there's going to be chaos when you're fighting the monster. And so the monster dies, and it is what it. I mean, it's I don't know. It's fine. It's a fine movie.
Yeah.
It's not the greatest film ever made. It's not the worst movie we covered this week.
Correct.
But it's there, and I'm sure in 1966 it's just a fun. I like Hammer films, but I also know that they are an acquired taste. Like there are a lot of people that do not like the films that come out from Hammer Film Studios because they just have that vibe, and they just don't like that gothic feel to them.
Yeah.
So, what'd you grade this one?
I gave it a D.
Okay, I gave it a C. Like it was, it was again like okay. I watched that movie. So, The Reptile. I picked one for Monday, and had I known you'd seen this movie already, I wouldn't have picked it. But on Monday, we watched Paranormal Activity, the first one, not the 38th one or whatever they're on to now. A found footage film. What are your thoughts on found footage films?
I love found footage films. So they definitely are one of my favorites just because I feel like I'm in the movie, or like I really like documentaries and
Okay.
that kind of stuff. So I'm like, I feel like this is like real when they
Okay.
found footage.
I think too much when I watch a movie. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
I think if a found footage film is done right, they're a lot of fun. I think if you've seen a lot of them, they all kind of definitely fit a formula. One of the biggest irritants of mine when it comes to found footage film is like how often the person with the camera makes sure they get the shot.
Yes.
Like if there is a found footage film where you're running away from a monster, you're not running with the camera on your shoulder.
Right. Like
you're not running, you're not turning around to continue looking at the monster with the camera. You might turn with your head, but in a found footage, so that takes me out of them a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I really like what Paranormal Activity does with setting the camera down and using a tripod a lot.
Yeah.
Because it lets our cameraman be a character as opposed to a cameraman.
Mm-hmm.
And so Katie and Micah, those are their real names. They move into a house. It's supposed to be haunted, but apparently Katie's been haunted since she was a child. Micah doesn't really believe it, but he's like, you know what? I got a camera. Let's just kind of film everything and see what we see. What we are watching, obviously, is these tapes have been found. Katie, no one knows where Katie is. Like it's kind of ham-fisted a little bit because it's a found footage. We found this footage, and then it just so happened to be exactly edited in the format that we need to watch it in.
Yeah.
So this home is haunted. Katie is haunted. There's weird happenings going on, such as a ghost that walks in flour or standing over your bedside and watching you for hours while you sleep. It has all the tropes. There's a Ouija board. There's a psychic that's too afraid to handle the problem. There's unseen forces. But we get kind of a running dialogue of the days, and it does feel very real. I'll give that, because they are going by their actual names, and that adds something to it. Plus, you just got to get the vibe that like they're just living together. They're not acting. Right. But we end up kicking off an entire like film series as Micah dies, and Katie is never to be found again. And then again, there is like 4 more of these movies.
Yeah.
This movie made all the money in the world.
Oh yeah. I remember going and seeing one of them in theater.
The entire budget for this film was like $215,000. It made $194 million.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot of money, folks.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of money. So it's one that you watch this movie more than maybe twice.
And it's just kind of like, okay.
Yeah, it doesn't hit the same way anymore. But that shouldn't diminish, how important this was to the found footage era, kind of kicked off by Blair Witch. It was kind of fun to see a different imaginative take on things. Yes. You got anything to add about Paranormal Activity?
No, I just Erica and I were talking about it, and she thinks that Micah is like the bad, like the antagonist in
I could see it.
The movie, and she sent me a video. I haven't watched it yet, but and how like the ghost, like the spirit, like the presence is not actually the antagonist. It's like the protagonist. Like Micah needs to leave. So I don't know if you're listening. Like, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, was it this? I don't remember if it was an episode of our show or my other one about like just all the different review critiques people can take after a film, and like whether or not the filmmakers intended that.
100%.
You know, like that feel like that's obviously a very like feminine approach to it, of like the man is and that's fine. I'm not anti-feminist. I don't want to come out and be like, oh, typical woman. But no, it just sounds like, oh, I could see it though, where it's like this entity is like has always around Katie, and Mike is the one that keeps poking the bear.
Yeah.
And so does that make Micah a bad person? I don't know.
To that entity, yes.
To that entity,
not,
possibly.
You know, like not in real life, yeah.
Well, of course, not real life, but even like in the Micah and Katie relationship within the film, like she's dating him. Like it's, you know, she obviously has found enough positive in him to have a relationship with him. And so then you've got this demon entity that's been haunting her since a child. So a little bit of possession there, not in a possessed state, but just, you know, this demon she needs to move on. Like, let her go, demon.
Yeah.
But would you grade it?
Just because I feel like they don't really have a chokehold on me, but I do remember like being so scared of them as a child. I give this one an A.
I gave it a C. It doesn't really do anything new. It was huge, don't get me wrong, but it's a very saturated industry, found footage. And again, I've seen this movie enough that it's like, okay, you know, first time watching it probably scared the crap out of me, but this wasn't my first time watching it.
Right, yeah.
Oh, your pick.
Yes, my pick. Good Night, Mommy. This was another...
The remake, the American remake.
This was... Okay, I could not find the American remake.
What? It was on Amazon Prime.
I did not look there. I was solely on Plex. So
I didn't put it on Plex because I shot it. I was ready to watch it, and I said, "Are we watching the original?" You go, "Oh no, we're watching the remake." And so I'm like, "Well, I looked on JustWatch.com. I saw it was on Amazon Prime, so I'm like, I'll just watch it on Prime." So you watched the original.
We've got different ones here, yes, and I hated
because they're not different because you had to read it.
Yes, I did. Oh my gosh, I hated it. I'm not even kidding you. Like, it was awful. I should have texted you and been like, American?
And I would have said like, Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, the poster for it has Prime Video plastered across the top.
Yep, it does.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, research goes a long way there, educator.
So I watched the 2014 version after I told you to watch the 2022 version, which is backwards of what I've done the last 3 weeks.
That's true, where you've, it has been.
Oh, Lord. This took me like 3 tries to get through because I'm reading. Yeah, I'm reading and I'm falling asleep and I wake up 30 minutes later and I'm still reading and I'm like, this is so great.
This is a very slow movie anyway.
It is. Like it's, these,
like even if you don't.
Twins,
yeah.
Yeah, it's just slow. They go to their mom's house who just so happens to live in the middle of nowhere. She gets like
beautiful house in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. She gets this like facial reconstruction surgery.
She's an actress.
Yeah, she's all wrapped up.
So there's some vanity there as an actress that I have to maintain.
Keep up, yeah.
So that's why mommy has all this going on.
And the boys are just like, this isn't our mom. Like she doesn't, you know, she's mean. She's not like the regular mom that we had.
She's not a cool mom.
Yeah. They start kind of going crazy. The boys do. Like,
well, they because they don't believe that it's their mom, and they are young, like they're like 9. You know, they set out to prove that it's not their mom. Yeah. Like they're trying to figure out that it's not their mom.
Yeah, and I'm just like super gluing her mouth shut, tying her up. Like, I don't know. This is, again, not what I thought it would be, but that's okay. It wasn't terrible. It was just like for being like a psychological, like thriller, like horror movie, I definitely thought that it would be a lot better.
Well, they take a left turn at the end when I appreciate this movie, but I also have beef with it. again, I watched the American remake like you picked. Then you chose to not watch that American remake. So there's the first left turn for this film. But my beef with it is you set this entire movie up playing mom off as this mysterious, is she a villain? Is she a monster? Is she the mom? And then at the end, you're like, just kidding. One of the twins lost his mind because the other one's dead and he's just imagining everything. And it's not fun. It's not a fun twist because it's like you're trying to conduct a magic trick to get my attention over here. And then you do the trick over here when I'm not looking and be like, you missed it. Like, well, you told me to look the other way. Like, what do you expect? So I'm with you on that regard. Again, I watched the American one. It was a little tighter. It didn't feel so drawn out. Obviously, you didn't have to read it. The one issue I had with the American remake, and it really did bother me, is they used that gimmick where things are happening and then someone wakes up from a dream.
Oh, yeah.
But they use it twice.
Oh.
That's not something you can use twice.
Right.
You use it once to trick us into like, mom is an alien or mom is a monster. And then they're like, wakes up from a dream. Oh, that's not true. Mm-hmm. Then they do it again like a half hour later. Now, it's like you fooled me once, but then when you pull that stunt again, I'm not expecting it a second time because I've already been tricked one time. So then when they wake up from yet another dream, it's like, oh, dude, that's cheap. Like, like you got me down that path again because I thought, you've already used the dream logic, so this must be really happening. No, it's not. There are better movies out there that have this same kind of premise of, looks like we have twins, but one of them's really dead. Mm-hmm. This one's not the best one of the bunch.
Yeah.
What's your
I gave it a C+.
Yeah, I originally gave it a B, but more we talked about it, I dropped it to a C. So
yeah, I feel like, and honestly, I don't even know if watching it in English would have helped.
Not now. Not now when you know the plot.
Yeah, I'm like okay.
Yeah, they're pretty faithful. Right. We do have a couple of fun things. I don't remember if I think they happened in the foreign, where like we get a couple of cops that come to check on the place and they're suspicious of the boy. And so it's neither here nor there. Yeah. Nothing too crazy going on. We shuffled for Wednesday.
Yes.
And we got A Quiet Place Day 1. If I remember correctly, you have not seen the original Quiet Place or its sequel, correct?
Yes, I have.
Okay, you have. Okay.
Yes.
So that may have been why we stuck with Day 1. So Quiet Place Day 1, shocker, takes place on the first day of the Quiet Place universe.
Yeah.
This is pre-Jim from The Office. This is our movie sets off in like the most dire situation of like, let's put people in a hospice.
Mm-hmm.
And we follow Sam, cancer patient, real down on life. And all she wants to do is go to New York. So they take an outing to New York to go catch a marionette show.
And all she wants is some freaking pizza.
That's all she wants is pizza.
Oh my gosh.
Like it's one of these where I don't work in a hospice. I don't ever want to work in a hospice. I couldn't do it. But I'm like, if you've got a patient that you know is going to die, and they're like, I just want New York pizza. Get them some New York pizza.
They just go.
Just get them some pizza. Put them in a van and take them.
Yeah.
So as they're in New York, which naturally the most populated city in the United States, we get these objects falling from the sky. Well, they're the aliens in the universe. And so, as we already know, these aliens operate on sound only. New York is an extremely loud city. Kind of a fun just mashup of it's going to be chaos.
Yeah.
They do some things to set the stage for later films in like the prequels to this movie. But it's really just a big survive in New York with these monsters. I mean, that's really it.
Yeah.
We know she's got a cat. This cat appears to be everywhere it needs to be at the exact moment it needs to be there. But it's just a bunch of, let's take the Quiet Place, because the first two Quiet Place movies took place in like cornfield, you know, but like, let's move it to New York and see what happens. So I get it. Like, you've established that you've got a franchise that can carry its own weight. Let's have some fun with it. And that's what this movie was. Would you grade it?
I give this one a B. I definitely like A Quiet Place better. You know,
the original,
where we follow like, the Jim, where we follow his family.
Yeah. I will admit that is a better draw, like the family horror, and that movie was rough. Like, and first of all, don't get your wife pregnant when there's monsters that react to sound. But it's at the stage that my son wanted to watch it. The first one, we watched it somewhat recently. He wanted to watch it, so we put it on, and he couldn't make it. He got to a point, broke down in tears, because he's just it was the scene in the first one where mom come down the stairs and steps on the nail, and then the monster comes downstairs too, and just the tension of that scene was too much. Like, he couldn't handle it. He erupted.
These movies definitely are like full of tension.
They're full of suspense for sure. And so I gave it a B. As well. It's a very polished movie, great looking film. Like, it's good talent. Like, there's nothing wrong with the film. But yeah, the story, it's fun just to see an origin. You know, it's not really an origin because we still don't know where these things come from. But still, this was back before it was basically apocalyptic. You know, where there were still people around and electricity and things like that. So that brings us to Thursday, my pick. Not the oldest one of the week, but it feels like the oldest one of the week. 1980s Motel Hell.
Yes.
This movie is bonkers.
I liked this movie.
I'm glad you did. You got, fun little story. 2 weeks ago, we were up in Galena. And we had already watched this movie for the month. And we're up in Galena. And on our way out of Galena, we pass a sign that says Farmer Vincent's Fritters. and it's got his caricature on it. Like,
I like that.
Yeah. And they were selling, like, it was, I don't know if they're still open or not, but they made and sold cured meats like he does in the movie.
Be a little scared to try it.
Yeah. And so it was real fun driving, because we drove past it, and even my wife's like, did that just say Farmer Vincent's Fritters? I go, I'm pretty sure it did. So we looked it up online, and it was. Motel Hell is, you got a farmer, Vincent, and his sister live on a farm. There's a motel attached to it. No reason for the motel other than just for the O to burn out so that we could call it Motel Hell. He makes smoked meats that actually are made from human. He goes out and booby traps the roads and catch tourists as they're driving by. And then basically, you would think he kills them and butchers them. He doesn't. He slits their vocal cords and then buries them underground up to their necks, and then continues to feed them so that they can plump them up. And then he kills them so that he can harvest their meat. And one woman who they thought was going to be dead wasn't dead. So they basically bring her along. Vincent falls in love with her. Somehow she falls in love with him.
Yeah, and the cop's like, "Girl, is he forcing you?"
Well, the cop is their brother.
Yeah,
but he's not in on all of this.
Right?
Not really. So the brother's much more her age, so he's got the hots for her. She's into Farmer Vincent. The sister's jealous. It's a crazy movie.
It's just one big redneck.
Yeah, it's just
affair. I feel
but it's so sweet though. I love this movie. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. it's just a matter of navigating the days on the life of a farm where you're going to harvest and sell people's meat.
Yeah.
What'd you grade it?
I gave it an A.
I gave it a B+. Yeah, I really like this movie.
Yeah, I love how, like, when she finds out that he's, like, curing human meat, he's like, "You've been eating my meat for weeks."
Yeah.
And she's like,
"Oh." Yeah. Like,
because I couldn't imagine.
Oh, finding out that you've been eating human flesh.
Ugh.
Yeah.
No.
But she was like, yeah, it's just fun to be like, don't be upset now.
Yeah, honey, you've been going at it for a while now.
Yeah, B+ from me. Like you said, A for you, B+ from me. I love 80s movies. We've established that. 2, I really, really, really have a soft spot for movies that try to do something different. Mm-hmm. Like, just, I really like a wacky idea. Even if it doesn't work flawlessly, I love it. I just love that story of somebody gave money to somebody based on this idea. They made a film on this idea. And it's like, and it doubled its money at the box office. Like, it's I don't know. I like it when people try to get crazy and zany. And there's that fun scene where you got the swingers that stop by and they're just talking. Yeah. It's such this like innuendo as they just keep talking about meat and flesh, and the swingers are all getting all excited for it. But really, Vincent's like, we know Vincent's just going to kill these two swingers, and they're like, oh yeah, like they're so excited,
let's go,
perved out for it. So
yeah.
What was your Friday pick?
Candyman, the original, the 1992.
Because we had talked to you were going to go with the remake. And I recommended that it's more of a reimagining, that it would probably benefit knowing the origin story.
Yeah. This is another one of those like myths of you say his name 5 times. He appears behind you. Yeah. And we've got this just guy with a hook for a hand, the Candyman. They say he was like attacked by bees.
Yeah, he was going way back. He was like the son of slave, like a slave owner, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Fell in love with the slave owner's daughter. It's historical and kind of convoluted, but basically racism wins out, and he was murdered. They chopped his hand off and like slathered him in honey.
Yeah.
So the bees would attack him. I don't know enough about bees and apiary. Do bees eat honey?
I guess I never thought so. Like,
like if you slathered me in honey, is that going to attract the bees to me? I don't know.
I thought they made it, but yeah.
If you're an apiary beekeeper, drop in the comments below. Do bees eat honey? Like, would this be an effective murder weapon, covering someone in honey? I don't know. But yeah, go ahead.
So we've got Helen and her friend. I don't remember her name.
Bernadette.
Bernadette. That's why I didn't remember it. It's a mouthful. They are doing this like grad research project, and Helen doesn't believe. So she's like, all right, whatever. She says his name 5 times in the mirror, and things just start following and like happening to her.
Well, and she's really driven. She really wants this grad project to like wow people.
Yeah.
So she's really putting in the research effort.
And she just always seems to end up like at the wrong spot at the wrong time for all these deaths of the Candyman.
These just bloody murders.
Yeah. At one point, like he attacks like this baby, takes her because he's like, he needs like innocent young blood. And yeah, that, I feel like that is.
I really like this movie because not only does it introduce this urban legend, but they actually like stretch the story out to where like like you said, Candyman lives in the mythology of people that fear him.
Yeah.
And that's how you unlock him. But then again, there's the practical of, when they're at Cabrini Green and they're like, look, these medicine cabinets provide an access point between rooms to where like they're justifying Candyman's not real. Like there's a murderer here. Cabrini Green at the time, the public housing in Chicago, was notorious for you do not go there. Like gang violence, trouble. Like they didn't pick this accidentally. Cabrini Green was an actual. It's been leveled now, but it was actually like public housing that was you don't like the police wouldn't even go. Like it was trouble. So back in '92 when this movie comes out, like all this is grounded. Like, yeah, of course there's murders going on at Cabrini Green, and then they try to, it's fun how they take this back and forth. But like you said, Candyman's got his own agenda of like, you unliked me.
Yeah.
So
now you owe me.
Yeah. Because there was the Candyman figure that people were fearing was a guy who was just dressing up as the legend and actually doing the murdering. It wasn't the mythological Candyman, but Helen unlocked him. So now you're my servant. Like his backstory is I'm in love with someone and they need to help me. And you're that someone. Yeah. And here's the baby and you're going to take the fall for it. And again, like you said, there's just murders and she's always at the scene of the crime with a hatchet in her hand or whatever.
Like, she's so stupid.
She's stupid.
Girl, but why would you even pick that up?
Because she's pampered. Like she's married to a professor at the college. Like she's a silver spoon in her mouth kind of person.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of racial inequality in this film where she cannot fathom like that she would be found guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Like she knows she didn't do it, but when you wake up and you're in a room full of blood and you grab like the butcher knife and then the cops come running it, like she just looks at it like, you guys really think it was me? Right. Yeah, they do, because you're at the scene of the crime.
And you're the only one.
Like, yeah, you're the only one here. But Candyman takes this baby and she ends up going and getting the baby, fighting Candyman off a little bit. She ends up saving the baby, but like burns herself to death. And then her husband, her now ex-husband, because he was cheating on her, they try the Candyman thing at the end of the film. Well, she's kind of the new embodiment of the mythology. So, she comes and like kills her husband. I mean, it's just, I really enjoy this movie. I think this movie is just top to bottom. It's just somebody had in mind what they wanted to do with a horror film, and they made exactly what they made. Yeah. So, what'd you grade it?
I gave it an A-.
I gave it an A. I really like this film. It's rewatchable. I think the performances are solid. Like it's one you watch, you can come back to it, and it's like, that movie it's so good. It's just such a good movie.
Yeah.
And then we have Trouble Every Day. This movie sucked.
Yeah, we basically are following this couple on their honeymoon.
You're even going to go into details about it. I wouldn't even go that far. I was going to be like, this movie
sucks. He's got like a nymphomaniac type issue. Yeah. And yeah, it's weird.
This movie's is it about vampires? Is it not about vampires?
Okay, because that's what I was saying this whole time. Like, so are they vampires? Because like they're eating someone's face, and like I've realized like after watching The Green Inferno, The Loved Ones,
right?
After watching those, when June, the wife, goes and like kisses this guy and then like bites his lip off and is like pulling the flesh, I have realized like I love gore unless it's like that just
unless it's like quasi-realistic.
That is disgusting.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. And this, I won't go as far to say this movie was really gross. This movie was boring. This movie was slow. They tried somehow to wiggle in this like sexual vampire, but not even really. Like this movie was really hard to follow.
Yeah, like at one point, like why are we carrying puppies around and pushing up? What?
Yeah, no. I didn't like this movie. I didn't like it at all. What'd you grade it?
I give it a D-.
Yeah, I have a D. Just because I felt like being nice.
It's the biting their lip off and then them bleeding out and then seeing their tongue viciously just go all over their face. The blood. No.
I didn't like this movie. I didn't care for it. That wraps up the first 7 of our films. We do have 4 more we're going to cover, but we want to at least acknowledge that that was a week's worth of films, so we should rate that week's worth of films. Mm-hmm. So it's class ranking time. What did you have as your number 7?
Number 7 was Trouble Every Day.
Trouble Every Day was mine as well. Number 6.
I've got The Reptile.
I also have The Reptile at number 6. Your number 5.
Good Night, Mommy.
I originally had Paranormal Activity, but I think I'm going to switch them out for Good Night, Mommy. Yeah, I had Good Night, Mommy. It caught my attention because it was one of the only movies that I actually had time to sit and watch through, which I think was like, oh, this movie kept my attention. But in reality, I was kind of bored by it. The American remake, I found a little bit more enjoyable than the original. So not enough for you to sacrifice the time to go watch it, but it was a little more enjoyable. But I'm going to go with Good Night, Mommy at number 5 as well. Number 4.
My number 4 is Paranormal Activity.
That was also my number 4, Paranormal Activity. Yeah. Ooh, we're lockstep so far.
Yeah, I think our 1 and 2 are going to be different.
Possibly. What's your number 3?
A Quiet Place Day 1.
Quiet Place Day 1. Your number 2?
Candyman.
Okay. I went Motel Hell with my number 2.
Motel Hell was so fun. Like
that was honestly,
my number 1.
I love that you love it because it is just a bonk. It's just fun too. Like you're not scared,
right?
But it's a fun movie. Candyman was my 1. Motel Hell is your 1. So, but again, we've been pretty on beat this entire month.
We have.
With the exception of Long Legs, I think we've pretty much been lockstep, pretty much.
Yes.
All right, we've got 4 movies left, and then we're going to unveil our top 5 of the month, to which I scrambled mine down, and I'm not 100% certain that is my top 5, but it's done. So
I've got 6 circled. So,
okay. So I can come up with a 6th, I bet. Anyway, our last 4 movies, we have Curtains from 1983.
This is, I don't know, it wasn't terrible.
No, I liked this movie.
You've got this like group of actresses trying out for this part.
Yeah.
So they head up to this, I don't know, is he like a producer or something? Like
he's a director.
Director. They head up to his house and like it turns slasher from there.
Yeah, it's the premise is dumb. Because it's the main actress and the director that are so like above everyone else.
Yeah.
Like she fakes a mental illness so that she can be committed to an asylum just to prepare for a role. And so really it boils down to they have a role they need to cast, like you said, and they invite these aspiring actresses up to like why you would bring these people to like this alternative location. Doesn't matter. But yeah, it basically becomes this cutthroat. They're kind of playing everybody off each other, and then people start dying.
Yeah, and they're killer, all very serious about this too. Like,
and the killer's wearing like this old lady mask. But it's not like there's a bunch of stabbings from off screen. Like you see the killer. Yeah. We just don't know who's behind the mask. Mm-hmm. And so they just die. I mean, it's an 80s slasher movie, so there's just people dying in kind of goofy ways, but they're creative. And long story short, it turns out that we end up with the main actress, who's been kind of the actress all along. We've seen her die like 3 times in the movie, but she just keeps coming back. And she meets her match with the final survivor. We think at this point that it's the main actress who's been doing the killing. Because it's her and the survivor. Well, this is where it kind of, here's the turn, is it's this remaining actress that's been murdering the others. And earlier in the film, when we saw her talking to a group of her friends about, I'm going to go audition for this role, that was actually a foreshadowing of, at the end of the movie, she's in a mental institution talking about how great it is to be an actress, and so kind of a fun little spin. But it's I liked it. I didn't think I would, and as I'm watching, I'm like, I kind of dig this movie. What'd you rate it?
I gave it a B plus.
I just gave it a B. Like, there was some bumps along the way, but I like the masked killer. My favorite. What was your favorite part of this movie, if you remember? I've got a particular scene that I really enjoyed watching.
Honestly, I think I like when the girl's running away with like the doll in her hand. And I don't know why, but she's running away, and that the person in the mask is like chasing her, and they like slice off the doll's head.
Yeah.
I don't know, like it just stuck out to me because I'm like, go, 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 go. Gotcha. Don't let her catch you.
My favorite scene of this was the actress that was ice skating.
Okay.
And then we see, like, she finds the doll buried under some snow. Mm-hmm. But then we see, because it's broad daylight, which is rare for a horror film to see, like, to see a murderer attack someone in broad daylight. But we're like snow-covered ground, like on ice skates, as this masked killer comes ice skating across the pond. And it's just something about that imagery of, like, normally you see him step out of the shadows, but like, nope, this is as bright can get. Yeah. And
have you been ice skating?
I have not.
No. Okay.
And so she's so, like, locked in on that doll buried in the snow that she doesn't see this person coming. And I just that coming on is like, seriously, anybody could see this person coming on to you, but you're not paying attention, and so it's going to cost you your life. So, we got my pick, kind of a segue into November here. The Eli Roth slasher film, Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Woohoo!
This movie is a play. Back in 2007, Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez, both growing up, loved grindhouse features.
Okay.
Are you familiar with what a grindhouse feature is?
Nope.
Okay, grindhouse features were basically, they were two exploitation style movies that low budget, poor acting, but just craziness. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they would package them back to back, and so it'd be a double feature at the movies. You'd go catch one, then there'd be an intermission, and then you'd watch the other one, and it was a 2-for-1. But again, the movies were of low quality, but because of the low quality, they were kind of crazy, like women in cages, a lot of like sexy Nazi women, and I mean just really exploitative stuff. Mm-hmm. And so they grew up with that, and they made, in 2007, they made a grindhouse feature. I saw it in theaters. Robert Rodriguez, his portion of the movie was called Planet Terror, and it was about zombie infestation, and it just medical this way. It's at one point, one woman gets her leg removed and gets replaced with a machine gun, and so she. I mean, the movie's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And Quentin Tarantino's portion of the movie is called Death Proof, about a stuntman who picks women up in a bar, and then when he takes them, quote unquote, takes them home in his stuntmobile, it's been death proofed because he's a stuntman. Well, the driver's seat is death proofed. So what he does is he gets these women in his car, and then he intentionally goes and smashes his car so that they die and he doesn't.
Got you.
And so that movie spins off because he ends up, he meets his match. We'll leave it at that. I really enjoyed both of those films. Well, in the middle, long story here, but in the middle of those films was a series of trailers. And from other very popular directors, one was Robert Rodriguez made a trailer for, these movies did not exist at the time. Some of them do exist now, though. One was called Machete, about a man but it's now a movie, like they actually made it. Another one of those trailers was called Hobo with a Shotgun. It's now a real movie. Okay. One of those movies was called Thanksgiving, which was played up like an 80s slasher. It was a real grainy film. Like it was right up my alley of like, oh, I love this kind of movie. And so the big kicker on that one was there was a death in this movie where there was a cheerleader doing a striptease on a trampoline. And as she's jumping up and down, she pulls the splits just as the killer puts a knife up through the trampoline and she lands. And everyone's like, oh my gosh. Well, this movie is the full length feature of that trailer from 17 years ago. Okay, here we go. But so they took a 1-minute trailer and turned it into a film.
Yeah, and I mean, I had fun watching it.
It was a fun watch, yeah.
I originally forgot to watch this one. I was like, oh, I'm done. And then I was like, shoot, I didn't watch Thanksgiving.
I'm glad you went back because
yeah, me too.
But really it has all your Thanksgiving tropes, Black Friday sale, Killer Pilgrim.
Insane Black Friday.
Yeah, Halloween parade. There's a killer.
Yeah.
There's a killer. And people are dying, and they all seem to be related somehow to that Black Friday massacre from the year before, which was actually kind of a lot of fun to watch, that opening scene of watching these people just go nuts for free waffle iron. But yeah, and then it all ties itself back up. I really don't want to spoil this one as it just came out like less than a year ago. And so I don't really want to spoil how it ends just in case someone wants to watch it. But if you like an Eli Roth movie, you'll enjoy this one. If you like kind of some gore, and it kind of felt like Scream in a way of here's a bunch of people, we don't know who the killer is, but you know it's going to be revealed. If you like that kind of film, you're going to enjoy this one.
Yeah.
Would you grade this one?
I gave this one an A-.
I gave this one a B. Eli Roth does a lot of things very well, but he also does a few things very poorly. He doesn't write very good dialogue.
Yeah.
And so some of that just kind of was like, I've seen a lot of Eli Roth films, and a lot of them are like, you're lacking. The Green Inferno is another Eli Roth movie. So that cannibal movie that you've referenced a few times on the show, that's an Eli Roth movie. So he does gore very well. Like he gets it. He's a fan of the genre for sure. But there are some weak spots in his delivery, and dialogue being one of them. So there were times where this was like, yeah, those people don't really talk like that. But whatever. It's a fun film. I give it a B.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we are on to your pick.
Yeah, Hell House LLC, another found footage.
Another first of a franchise.
Yeah. And this is basically like in New York, this
not New York City, just New York State.
Right, yeah, sorry. Like Abaddon or whatever.
Yeah, Abaddon Hotel.
There's this like haunted house set up in it, and we are following like these kids that are going into it, and they're killed, like major tragedy. So this movie is just like basically going through the setup and going through the everything paranormal that kind of happens in the history of the hotel.
Yeah. Kind of found footage on a couple layers, because like you said, it kicks off with a bunch of like documentary style conversations with people, and then they talk to the only survivor from the night, and then they're like, and then she gives them like a bag of footage.
Yeah.
Like, watch this. And that's where we get the movie, is that, like I mentioned with Paranormal Activity, we've got the man with a camera on his shoulder that sees everything he should. Camera's always facing the way he's looking. But yeah, it's like 3 weeks prior, as they're transforming this abandoned hotel into a haunted house. And then, like you said, the aftermath of what happened. But there's just a lot of freaky stuff going on in the setup that should have been red flags for everybody to just leave, but they didn't. None of them did. One of them wanted to, but none of them really did. And then, like you said, the movie kind of ends, not really with a twist, but it turns out that there really wasn't any survivors from that night. So, what'd you think?
I gave it a B.
I did too.
I didn't love it. Like, it wasn't awful, but I was just like, okay, whatever. Like, I I don't really care to watch people go through haunted houses.
Well, this was the type of found footage film that like you really had to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Because it would be things where like the camera looks a certain way and sees something, then he turns his head, and when he comes back 2 seconds later, something has moved.
Mm-hmm.
But if you didn't recognize it in the first place, you're not going to notice the move.
Right.
But then just because they're afraid you don't notice the move, they overreact to the move.
Yeah.
Like something will be turned and, oh my God, oh God, oh, what's going on? What's going on? And it's like, chill, buddy, chill.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the fifth one is coming out next year. So something tells me there's enough there to continue this going somehow.
Mm-hmm.
That has me intrigued. You know, that has me a little intrigued as to, okay, well, what's missing? Like,
yeah,
I'm assuming it's the explanation of all the clowns or whatever. I don't know. But I gave this movie a C. You said you gave it a B?
Yep.
Yeah, I gave it a C. It didn't rock me at all. I never found myself scared. It just felt like, hey, let's make a movie, guys. And so a bunch of friends got together. But it obviously has become popular enough that they've made 4 more of them. So that's that. And then to wrap up the month, we watched Halloween 2, the direct sequel of the original Halloween that we ended last year with, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Yeah, Halloween 2 is a continuation of that night.
Like immediate continuation.
Yes, like almost like the first 3 minutes of this film overlap with the last 3 minutes of the first one. Like we see Michael Myers fall off the balcony, and then Dr. Loomis gets down there and he's not there. The end of Halloween is left with, oh, was that the boogeyman? Where'd he go? Well, they show him. Like, they show where Michael Myers goes. Yeah. As Laurie then gets taken to the hospital, and Michael Myers finds out she's at the hospital, so he makes his way to the hospital because he's still trying to kill Laurie Strode. Mm-hmm. We get a little bit more backstory here, which is kind of goofy, that Laurie is Michael's brother, and yada, yada, yada. It doesn't really hold up all that well, but it doesn't really matter, as this was an opportunity to increase the blood, because there was like no blood in the first one. Right. To increase the kill count.
There was blood in this one.
There was blood in this one. Very, very noticeable blood that the orderly should have seen on the ground before he slipped and fell. Yeah. But anyway, this movie was pretty successful, made about 10 times its money. And really, Halloween was never intended to be a Michael Myers franchise. Halloween was intended to be a series of, like an anthology of films centered around the Halloween holiday. And so they did Halloween 1 and Halloween 2, and that told Michael Myers' story because he dies in a fire at the end of this one. Mm-hmm. For Halloween 3, which is one of my favorites of the Halloween movies anyway, they do a completely different left turn, and they go with like Halloween mask and like this. It's a whole different, like Michael Myers is not even mentioned in Halloween 3, and people hated it because they loved Michael Myers. So this movie was supposed to be the end of Michael Myers, and then when Halloween 3 didn't do well because it was lacking him, they brought Michael Myers back to then be the continuation of the franchise. And so that's that. But yeah, I like this movie. It's my wife's second favorite of the Halloween franchise, and like I said, I like the continuation of it. Let's not jump ahead a year. Let's literally jump ahead 3 minutes and continue on what's going on. So, what'd you think of Halloween 2?
I gave it an A. I enjoyed it.
I did too. A from me. So, A from me as well. You liked what? You just liked it?
I enjoyed it. I like just the constant like cat and mouse chase around, and taking out everything that gets in your way.
Yeah. I like it. It's fun. And this, one thing that my wife really likes about this movie is she used to work at Graham Hospital when Graham Hospital still looked like this. Like she remember like every time we watch Halloween 2, there's parts in the hospital she's like, yep, that's what Graham used to look like, and that's what Graham used to look like. And so like for her, it's like it's kind of this projection of like, I kind of know what it's like to work in a hospital that looks like that. Maybe not when she worked there, but at least growing up. But Yeah, A for me. Let's rank these last four real quick. What was your number
right.
4?
My number 4 was Hell House LLC.
Mine as well. Number 4 is Hell House. Number 3?
Curtains.
Curtains was my 3. Number 2?
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving was my 2, and we both had. We did it. We made it.
Yeah.
We've been off a couple all month long, but this is we ended in a solid note. All right, so let's look at our favorites for the month.
All right. Yeah,
what
I have my.
How many do you want to do? Do you want to do top 6?
I have 6. I can get rid of one. If we just want to stick with 5.
I can do 6.
Okay.
Let me get a 6th one real quick here.
I need to think about the order that they're going to be in, though.
All right, I've got my top 6 in order.
Okay.
All right, so when you're ready, let me know, so we don't just have a bunch of dead air. I'm assuming because we'll be back to our regular format here very, shortly. Start off with a shuffle.
Yeah. Just
okay,
because unless you're prepared to have one, I'm not prepared to have one.
I'm not either. We'll start off with a shuffle.
So yeah. Okay. I think I'm ready.
All right. What is your? Again, I'm not set that these are my top 6 in order, but I'm like, I got to get them down, so I did. What is your number 6 movie of the month?
I See You. Just the thought of someone frogging in my house. Nope. That still sits wrong with me.
Fair enough. I went with Candyman as my number 6, which actually I had at 5, and I just switched it right now. So Candyman is my number 6 movie of the month. What is your number 5 movie of the month?
Behind the Mask.
Oh, good pick. I went with Halloween 2.
Okay.
As my number 5. Top 4 now. I have a feeling we're going to overlap in a couple of these somewhere.
I don't think we are.
No? What's your number 4?
Motel Hell.
Oh, good for you. I went with Loved Ones as my number 4.
Okay.
But Motel Hell didn't make my top 6. It could have. I think if I had more time, it could have easily.
I just thought it was a lot of fun.
That makes me very happy. I will tell you, as the more experienced horror watcher of the two of us, I really enjoy bringing movies to you that I am certain there's not a chance you would have been watching outside of a recommendation.
100% no.
And I love making these offers to you. That one actually comes on behalf of my wife. That I love bringing these to you, and then you digest them and enjoy them.
Yes.
I do. I really enjoy that. So 4 was Motel Hell and Loved Ones for me. What was your number 3?
Blackcoat's Daughter.
Blackcoat's Daughter was my number 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Blackcoat's Daughter. Number 2,
Loved Ones.
Okay, I had Maxine as my number 2.
Yeah, that crazy daughter, man.
Yeah, she's very good. I like the fact that it would have made sense if my top 5 would have been just the number 1 movies of each week.
Yeah, I know, but I don't think mine were.
Mine definitely aren't. I know that there are other movies that I'm like, now some were. Don't get me wrong, some were, but yeah, I had Loved Ones was number 2 and Blackcoats was number 3. And it is what it is. So
yeah.
So number 2, what'd you have for 2, you said? Or did we do
the
that
Loved Ones?
Loved One. And I had Maxine. And what was your number 1 movie of the month?
Mine was Maxine. I will die on that franchise. I love that one.
That's fair. Mine was Dead Alive.
Okay.
And
that was a good one.
Yeah, I love that movie. I really like when after we watch The Steak of Vicious, I'm like, you just wait. Yeah. You just wait till next week. If you had to, this wasn't planned at all, what would you say is your bottom 3 of the month?
Bottom 3?
In no particular order.
Okay, I'm going to go with Trouble Every Day.
Okay.
And I'm going to go with Repulsion.
Uh-huh.
And Long Legs.
Okay. I had Trouble Every Day, Repulsion, and For the Sake of Vicious.
Yeah.
Those are my bottom 3.
I'd watch The Sake of Vicious again for the gore. Okay. I don't think I'd watch Long Legs again.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a good month. Yes. We got through it. I'm excited to get back to our regularly scheduled one a month though, or one a week. So let me pull up the old Plex machine here and go to the horror movies. There they are. And let's give a shuffle. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Not a movie I know of. We are going to watch a movie from 1977, I believe. Yep, 1977, called Scalpel.
All right.
I like that title.
Yeah.
When an unhinged surgeon happens across a young woman with her face beaten beyond recognition, he sees an opportunity to put his trusty scalpel to use, hatching a plan to reconstruct her face in the image of his missing daughter.
Okay.
Yeah, I know nothing about this film outside of what I just read to you. So we are going to watch 1977's Scalpel, otherwise known as False Face. I like Scalpel much better as a title.
Sounds better.
Much better as a title. And that's the only movie we have to watch this week. That's it. Just one. I remember there was a time not too long ago where it's like, hey, it's Thanksgiving break. Let's knock out like 2 or 3 movies this week. Yeah. And now we're like, just one. Thank gosh, just one.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I love the challenge of October, but man, it does not fit well with my schedule.
Well, it did
for a while.
It definitely works better when it's 31 movies worth watching.
Yeah.
We had some duds.
Yeah.
I mean, between the two of us, For the Sake of Vicious, Long Legs, Repulsion, Martin to a degree, The Scarlet Claw, the Banshee chapter. Forgot about that one.
Yeah, I did too. Trouble Every Day.
The Reptile was kind of slow.
Yeah.
Goodnight Mommy. Like, there was a large chunk of the month, 20% of the month at least, that was like, oh, this is not an enjoyable film. But that Scalpel may be garbage. I have no idea.
Right.
We won't know until
we start it off.
We won't know until we find out. But that wraps up another October. Social media wise, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Find us on TikTok. I didn't load up any TikToks from last week. It just got away from me.
That's okay.
It's a lot easier. I think it's a lot easier to make them cut up. I may not even do any for this week's episode, just because we covered 11 movies. You know what I mean? And so I don't want to find the sound bites are tough. So I may wait until we do Scalpel, because I'll feel like we're at least talking about one film the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be conversation as opposed to, what'd you think? What'd you think? What'd you think? What'd you think?
Yeah.
But we are on TikTok. YouTube Shorts gets more traction than TikTok, but we may get there. Who knows? So, do you have any parting words before we take off?
No, I don't.
Thanksgiving is right around the corner, folks. It is November already.
Yeah, it is. Oh, that means my kid's birthday is right around the corner.
That's good.
Yeah. My dad's birthday is 28th and his is the 29th.
Well, that's easy to remember then.
It is very easy to remember.
Well, I guess that for another week of education, I'm Mike.
And I'm Courtney.
And we'll see you guys next week with Scalpel.
Bye.